Hey guys, for this particular lesson, we want to focus on a few things using this image. What I want you guys to do is try to create a sketch as close as you can using the cone, the cube, and the cylinder. What you'll do is begin very lightly with a regular pencil, and you'll draw out your basic forms. So I'm going to show you that really quickly, and we'll just do a quick shading exercise to keep this under 15 minutes. For YouTube's requirements on videos. So I want you to find a page in your sketchbook, and you can use some sort of straight edge to box out a section. Just going to use a note card really fast. Okay, just a small area that I'm reserving for this. Okay, so what you're going to do is take your regular pencil, and while you're using this or doing this exercise, I want you to refer back to your value chart that you created previously. Make sure you're using your 6B ebony pencil. Have your sticky eraser handy in case you need to put back in some reflective highlights that are very subtly located. The very back line of this cube has a little highlight reflection. The very edge of this cone has like a little value of 7, and the background is a little bit dark, so don't worry about going super dark with the background. But what I want you to recognize is that the cast shadow is the 10, not the actual shadow on the object. The 10 also carries around under the bases right here, just real subtle. So when you guys are drawing this and shading it, just be aware of those things. Okay, so for the cone, remember that elliptical bases are round, and you can go ahead and kind of orient yourself less than halfway down for the horizon that's there. Now, I'm looking for accuracy of shading, not an identical image that's, you know, on the picture. I just want to see that you guys can shade properly and draw basic forms. So go ahead and put your cone in, your cube. You'll know that you'll need to have a vertical edge here. This one is a little bit tricky. When I drew it earlier, I had to make some corrections. So I tried to match the angle that's in the picture. I did use vanishing points the first time. Just remember all of your tricks to draw your cube. You're using 2-point perspective. So I'm going to help get y'all started, but it is impossible for me to do this in under 15 minutes. I already tried. It was about 30, and still waiting for YouTube to let me load that video. Oops, my vertical edge is not so vertical. Alright, so our cube is important for the base of our cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and put cylinder on there. Oh, it's an elliptical object, remember. Okay, so this curve of this cylinder must be the same here. So one thing that you can examine that I've noticed that I've made a mistake on is the top of this cylinder that's showing is not equal to what I have. So those are things to pay attention to. Oops. Okay, so now that I have my image drawn, we're already about 5 minutes in. I'm going to take my note card and line it up on the edge of my cone, and I'm going to use the side of my pencil just to define a very light value there that I can work with. We do not want to lose this triangular highlight that's right there. And you can always check your edge if you want to make it a little bit sharper with the note card. Okay, so the background does define this particular edge on this side. So what I can do is just lightly and I will spread this out later and do the same. And then I'm going to use the note card to help me line up my shadow that's underneath the cone. Okay, so this is actually my 10. If I want to go ahead and put this in, where an object touches a surface is where, in the cast shadow, where it touches the object is the darkest value. Okay, so beginning to shade the cone, circular motion, we can always add the darker value, excuse me. Now, one thing about highlights is that they're not usually the bleach white of the paper. So try to keep them around a 2. I'm going very, very fast. I want y'all to take your time. I'm trying to keep this video short, so I don't want anyone rushing in the way that I am. If you are trying to draw very fast, you should be pausing this and taking a look every now and then. So you do not have to make your background jet black like it is in the picture. You can just kind of fade away from the edges. And it can just fade off. But you can define the edges of your objects this way. Okay, we're about 9 minutes in, so you want to keep working at your cone. Make sure, so this is one thing I do have to correct sometimes, I just got rid of this really important highlight that goes all the way to the tip of the cone. Okay, so make sure you do not lose that. So the cube is a little bit tricky because there's a little bit of light that comes through here. So you want to try and, you know, go as dark as you can. Use your note card to get these corners. And if I was going to define the back of this cylinder a little bit more. So use your note card for stuff like that. Especially when you have such dramatic lighting. You can always define that later, okay? All right, moving back to the other image. I just might not get to those things in this particular video. All right, so the cylinder, I would go ahead and start with that. It's the same process as the cone. So there's a little bit of a reflected light that's right here. My cylinder is a little bit shorter than the one in the picture. I don't think I had that problem the first time around. So if I had more time, I would erase it and make it longer. But really, you know, a cylinder is a cylinder, and if you can shade it, you know, creating the illusion of form, then you've reached the goal. So we're already at 11 minutes. I'm going to switch over to the cube, but I want you to know that you're going to follow the same procedure here. You're going to define that cast shadow, leave a little reflected light back there. Now I went over the edge of the side of my cube. It's really important to have a nice edge here. Same with this side. So I'll jump over here for my vertical edge. It's very dark right there. And so I can define that line with this card. Same with the top one. And the background is dark, but I'm going to make this pretty dark. Okay, so looking at that angle of the highlight that's coming through there, and you're going to slowly build up these values. You don't want to rush and then they're too dark and it's hard taking it off. Now if you rub really abrasively with a regular pencil eraser, you could do a little bit of damage to the paper the more you erase. And you might discover that if you've been erasing a lot already, that it's hard to get the values where you want them to be when the paper's had a little bit of stress. There's a little bit of light that pokes through right there. We can put that back in with a sticky eraser. Do you think I need to sharpen my pencil? If it's becoming harder for you to control your values and your pencil's getting very worn down, make sure that you freshly sharpen it. But I want you guys to continue to try to match these values. We're at 14 minutes right now. Really be honest with yourself, like, is that a 2? Is it a 3? Where does it transition to a 4? And so on, okay? So I know you're going to do a great job. Don't forget to put your name on it and load it to Schoology.